Today I'm cooking food from Jamaica. I'm starting off with saltfish and ackee, which is a dish that actually originates from colonial times. So both of the ingredients actually aren't native to Jamaica. Ackee came over from West Africa, and whitefish, salted, came over from colder countries like Canada. I'm using pollock because I happen to come across it, but you can make your own, and I believe codfish is traditional. I soaked mine for a couple of hours and then I'm boiling it for just 15 minutes just to cook it through. And then as a base I'm using onion, some garlic, bit of spice and a bunch of thyme. Ackee is the other ingredient, which as I mentioned came over from West Africa. It was brought over during the slave trade. So it's a fruit that kind of resembles like a pepper, like I'm cutting up now, and a pear, I think. It's actually toxic to start with, apparently. Once it opens up, it loses that toxicity, and the fruit inside is kind of like globes, which you'll see later. So yes, peppers and tomatoes I'm also putting into this. Recipes kind of vary, but it's like a very traditional, like breakfasty, brunchy type food. I'm actually making it for dinner because I'm just making everything for dinner. But yes, I'm just cooking down this base, and then I will be adding in the fish, which, as I mentioned, cook for 15 minutes, and then I'm just flaking it in. Mine luckily didn't have much in the way of bones, but yeah, that would have been a bunch of effort. So the dish, I believe, was actually originally created as a way to feed the slave population that was in the Caribbean at the time. And having that fruit that was brought over from Africa, as well as the salted fish that obviously lasted a while, was a good way to, like, I guess, feed the masses. So, but nowadays it has become a staple in Jamaica. So I've just added in the ackee, which, as you can see, is these beautiful yellow lobes. I've never cooked with it before, and actually I don't think I've ever tried it. It's hard to describe the flavour. It's kind of like mild and creamy and a bit nutty and fruity at the same time. But I've just combined them both, and since they're already cooked, it didn't take too long. But there it is, saltfish and ackee. It's a really beautiful dish. It's definitely a very unique combination of like fish and the kind of like creamy fruit. It kind of reminds me of scrambled eggs in the consistency. But it's a really nice dish, and while I had it for like dinner as a starter in the end, it would make an amazing like brunch dish, especially with like bread or dumplings, or I believe breadfruit is also traditional. And now onto the jerk chicken. So this is everything I have to make the jerk. So scallions, green onions, olive oil, vinegar, lime juice, salt, pepper, cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice / pimento, onions, peppers, ginger, garlic, thyme, and brown sugar. I would have used scotch bonnets, but couldn't find them very easily. They didn't have them in stock. I'm just blending that all together. Again, jerk seasonings vary, and I'm sure they are a closely kept secret, but this was like the best take I could find on it, so I tried to do my best, and mainly just like maximizing the flavor of everything, so I had more than enough to like make sure it was really enough for the chicken I had. And jerk is another dish that also originates from the colonial times, so it's a blend of the indigenous Taino population in Jamaica and also the African slaves that came over. It's like a fusion of their culinary traditions, I believe. Jerk itself, I believe, refers to not only this like paste seasoning that I'm making, but also the way of like smoking, grilling. That whole process is like, it's a whole culture in and of itself from what I understand. So like this is very much just like my take on it. I'm just like covering the chicken as much as I can. Unfortunately, I don't have a smoker, and there are kind of ways like DIY one, but I just simply did not have the time at the minute. Maybe, I'm sure one day I will make it again and be able to do it. But as an alternative, I put my chicken on this rack, and underneath you can see I put smoking liquid, liquid smoke. That's the one. Put it underneath just to kind of like a really knockoff version of a smoker. It's obviously nowhere near authentic, and authentic jerk chicken is amazing, but I figured this will do for now. As a side, I'm doing rice and peas. I'm cooking the rice as a coconut rice, which again, the recipe I followed suggested cooking it in the coconut milk, which is what I am doing here. I had a bit of trouble with this. It didn't absorb very well. I assumed, like, because of the amount of coconut cream, maybe like I don't know, I kept having to add water in. It took absolutely forever, but it did work out. And here are the peas, the red kidney beans. I've also got some seasoning, which is quite similar to the jerk seasoning that I made up before. And then I'm adding the coconut rice. So the peas are actually kidney beans. Apparently that's just what they call them there. So cool. Rice and beans are the best thing ever. There's no real bad way to combine them. But basically just cooking that together, the coconut rice, the beans and the seasoning. Easy. As another side, because I had some plantains left over and I need to use them up, plantains are also a thing that you can in Jamaica, like they are across quite a lot of equatorial countries. So I'm just chopping up my plantains, and this one is beautifully ripe. The other one, not very ripe, so I actually boiled them down. The one that wasn't very ripe, I was boiling down earlier, and I just added in the fresh one. So I'm just boiling them down just to like make them a bit softer, and then once the water evaporates, fry them off just to give them a bit of like crispiness, which I always think is a nice thing. But fried plantains are just lovely, to be honest. And so brought the chicken out of the oven after I think about 40 minutes, and the smell is so spicy, but you can really get the allspice pimento berries as well, which like that alongside the chili are like really key flavors, I believe, and the thyme as well. It's beautiful. It's like I've mentioned in other things, I'm terrible with spice, but really, really lovely. Like this is definitely one of those dishes where like powdering through the spice is really worth it. And also just all the combinations of flavors and the rice and peas. Just really lovely dish, and having it like authentically made would be even just more incredible. But I really enjoyed my rendition of it as well. It's just a really lovely dish to try out. For the dessert, I'm doing gizzada. So gizzadas are a coconut-filled pastry tart. So the origins are said to be Portuguese Jews who came to Jamaica many centuries ago. I believe gizzada actually means pinch me around, which is a reference to how the pastry is made. So it's basically cooking down coconut with spices. I also added some rum in and cooked the alcohol off that, because Jamaica and rum goes hand in hand. But anyway, cooked down the filling, and now I am making the pastry case. I pre-bought my pastry because I hate making pastry. It's just a basic short crust anyway. I'm cutting out circles. Very simple, just big enough circles to be able to do stuff with it, and then re-rolling out the pastry. Easy enough. And then I am doing the pinch me round bit. It was actually quite simple. Getting the sizes right. I think they were good size. The actual recommendation I think was 4 to 5 inches circular. I think I went slightly smaller just so they weren't overwhelmingly large. But I think it worked out well, and the sides were like a nice, very nice like way to hold it in. I don't bake very much. I don't like baking. It's too much effort. And then I'm just stabbing holes to stop it lifting up. However, I did make a crucial error here. I think this was the cause of my problem. The baking dish I'm using here, it was sitting in my oven while it was preheating, and you can see what happened here. All of the middles puffed up and all of the sides collapsed, so they were a bit flat, which is a shame because they were really beautiful before I pre-baked the pastry shells. Like I say, I suspect my baking tray was just too hot, and it puffed up the middle. If I'd used a cold one, maybe that wouldn't have happened. I don't know. I don't do baking. This is why I don't do baking. There's too much scope for failure. But whatever, I persevered and put the filling in, kind of piled it on top for the ones that were particularly flat. Do they look beautiful? No. Will they still taste good? Yes. They are pastry, and they still have a coconut filling. Whether they are glue or not is irrelevant. Anyway, I'm sure other people can do better than me, because these tarts, I mean, easy to make at the very least, apart from when I fail and pulled them out of the oven once they had browned up a bit on top and around the sides, and you can't really tell from far away how bad I messed up, I suppose. And I picked the two nicest ones, and I think they look rather charming, and they were very, very tasty. They were reasonably sweet. Obviously, it's a lot of coconut and sugar. There's quite a lot of sweet stuff. I would have liked to use fresh coconut. I use my desiccated stuff, but fresh is really hard to grate and to find at the minute. I thought they were really nice, and they are really quite simple to make even if you screw up. So I highly recommend. They're a really, really lovely dessert.